I'm Chris Oppenheim. People call me Church. I'm the owner of Interstate Inc. in Los Angeles, California. We cater almost exclusively to recovering addicts, and we have a program in place to help artists with addiction issues get their lives and careers back on track. We're trying to raise awareness, educate others, and reduce the negative stigmas associated with addiction. We want everyone to know there is hope, we do recover, and most importantly, even broken crayons still color. Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Broken Crayon Show here at Interstate Inc. Today I have Ian. He was a homeless drug addict in Boston and worked his way out here to homeless drug addict. And now nowadays he's doing really well. He's in recovery and involved in the entertainment industry. Seems to be a common thread out here. So take it away, brother. Tell me a little bit about what it was like and what it's like now.
All right. So, yeah, my name's Ian. I'm from Foxborough, Massachusetts, small town outside of Boston. So my story is pretty similar to a lot of other people. I grew up in a pretty normal place, Foxborough was like a nice town. My parents were really young, however. My mother was 19, my father was 23 when they had me, and they were musicians. So my upbringing was like a little bit unorthodox. Everyone else's families seemed to be Irish Catholic, Protestant, hardworking, some blue collar. Some people were a little bit
flaky.
Yeah,
flaky musicians. Well,
no. So they were like, I had everything I needed. We lived in like a nice house. It wasn't like my parents were like drug addicts and active addiction. I don't want to paint this picture of like I'm this victim that grew up in like this terrible environment. I'm just trying to say like it was a little unorthodox because nobody else's parents were throwing giant parties. We used to have these parties and have all these musicians out, and we were going to these rockabilly shows. And I just like fell in love with the idea of sex, drugs, and rock and roll very early on. I was exposed to a lot of concepts of that nature.
Same. My dad was more of a biker type.
Yeah. So it was always like fuck the system. Ideas like corruption and things of that nature were kind of implanted in my head early on. And at the same time, they were like very happy people, and I was a happy-go-lucky kid. I really liked the idea of like, the music and the culture and like peace and love. They also used to take me to like Grateful Dead shows as like a baby, and it was a cool scene.
My father took me to Floyd.
Did he?
In '94.
Yeah, I was born in '93. And in 95 or 94, we went to a Grateful Dead show. I was a little baby. I have a picture. I'll pull it up from my phone of me and my dad at the Grateful Dead concert.
As a baby at a dead show.
I'm just like this little baby. So, these things weren't far from me. They were always around.
Yeah.
I went through some stuff as a kid around 8. And, I started to develop my first real workings of like real resentment, and I started to get a little bit angrier towards like 10, 11, 12. I was mad. I didn't really trust the system. After doing some work now, I want to say like everything I'm talking about, I've had like this experience that has really changed my perception, but
that's the key, isn't it?
It is.
Perception
it
shift.
is. The way that I view these stories that I'm about to go over, it used to be like I was a victim, right? Like for example, like what I just mentioned, being a child, and I really used it as an excuse to go about the world a certain way.
Yep.
And now it's still an excuse to go about the world a certain way. It's just a little bit different, right? I have like this unique gift where I'm able to like share these things in order to help other people, and I really believe that's like my primary purpose is to use these stories and my experience to help other people.
It's funny. It's like I always say, like, after completing all 12 steps, like, I realized it's not this grandiose, like, you're supposed to cure cancer.
Yeah.
I'm just supposed to help the next guy get where I am.
That's what I know about, right? Like, that's where my place is in the world right now. It's to help other drug addicts, right? Because I know about that. Yeah. I don't need to get involved in all these outside issues, you know? I want to help drug addicts. I do like animals a lot. I like people, you know? I like the broken and the damned and, like, these people that I can relate to, and I see the beauty in, like, their ability to help other people if they could just get the same experience that I had. Anyways, it is tricky and it can get really sad. Anyways, so at 8, 9, 10, I started to get a little bit angrier. I developed this like kind of core belief that I couldn't really trust much in the world. You know what I mean? I didn't really feel very safe as I moved about. It was hard to trust. The quality of my relationships was already starting. Was it almost like a paranoia of sorts, or was it just? It was just fear and resentment, you know. Okay. And I was starting to develop like shittier relationships. Like I would find these friends, and we would get into trouble. I caught my first felony when I was 12. What did you do at 12? So this is a great story, actually. The man who I did this to. His name is Dick, and he's passed now. But so basically, what happened is I was at my friend Carter's house, and come to find out, I guess this guy Dick, his mom was working for him, and he was he kind of, you know, did some sexual misconduct, grabbed her in a way that was inappropriate, maybe said some inappropriate things, which is like kind of right up his alley, I would say. It's a very on-brand thing for this guy Dick to do. Anyways, I did something that was unwarranted. I went and took a hammer and threw it right through his Cadillac, brand new Cadillac, and I ended up getting arrested. I caught my first felony. I was 12 years old. Hey, man, yeah, I mean, you know, you're 12. Still not allowed, but I think it really just speaks to the level of anger, right? It's like, why am I so mad? Yeah, at Dick. You know, Dick did something terrible, but I really wanted to escalate the situation. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah, I had a similar situation. Like between 5th and 6th grade, I whipped the shit out of a kid with a dog choker. Yeah. I mean, I laid him open. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, I get it. A lot of anger. I had a lot of anger, and these situations continued. And you know, at the same time, I had like this anger and this longing to be accepted, and I kind of gravitated naturally towards the potheads and the stoners. My parents smoked a lot of weed, and I wanted to be the cool kid, so I would steal the weed and take their booze. When I was like 14, I went to go look for some weed in my mom's purse, and I opened up this little Tylenol travel thing that was in her purse. And there was all these ecstasy pills in there. And I took them to school, and they had 4-leaf clovers on them. Some kid's like, what are these, Lucky Charms, dude? And I'm like, Lucky Charms? Yeah, I'm like, I don't think so, bro. I'm going to tell you, I found these in a place that you don't keep Lucky Charms. I'm gonna go ahead and say they're not Lucky Charms. They weren't. You know, and that was my first experience with, like, a little harder drugs. I took them at a 311 and Slightly Stupid concert. And you were slightly stupid while you were there? Yeah, with this girl, Amanda. It was fun. I had a good time. She was, like, way older than me. I felt cool. And drugs at that time were a way to expand my consciousness, and it really did feel like a way to connect with something greater than me. Whether it was a group of people, right? Being a part of a group of people feels bigger than you sometimes. Mm-hmm. Or it's this like idea of this thing that's bigger than me. This underlying totality that existed in the universe. And I wanted to like experience that through expanding my consciousness. And that's what I figured drugs and psychedelics was. Yeah, I did a lot of psychedelics. I mean, I've done crazy combinations of psychedelics. I used to Jedi flip and candy flip, and I really wanted to.
I have a DMT molecule tattooed on my
Yeah,
shoulder.
yeah, I've smoked DMT,
I was extracting it myself.
drank ayahuasca, all those things.
Yeah.
And I really just wanted to start experimenting, and I loved these chemicals. I thought like they had the key to unlocking something that was deep within my brain that was going to allow me to see the world differently.
Right.
Yeah,
I get it.
And that's what it was. Unfortunately, that fear and resentment and anger started to like take over around 16, 17, 18. I got a job at this place called Texas Roadhouse.
I know that spot.
Yeah, so I'm working at Texas
I went back
Roadhouse.
to Baltimore recently. I just visited for 2 weeks. We ate there with my wife.
They did the line dances, peanuts on the floor.
I didn't do any line dances.
Yeah, well, the waitresses and the waiters do. And Texas Roadhouse was cool. That was my first experience with opiates. It was like there was all these cute waitresses and hostesses there. I wanted to be cool. Me and this girl Danielle, we started doing blues together. And I'll never forget.
Florida fucking entree.
Yeah. The M30s. Those were the ones we were doing.
M-boxes or
M
whatever.
boxes. We used to have this joke in rehab in Florida, and my buddy would go, "I like the M's, they burn," because he swore to God that the M's. Yeah, he used to say it all the time. That was the place I was at with my buddy Derek, actually, and yeah, man, I just got like. Once I experienced opiates, I really found like what people call like a drug of choice or whatever. I hate that term. I think it's just,
Yeah, I'm with you. I may have preferences, but
I have preferences, but like I just want to feel different. I want to feel nothing. For me, the reason that I did opiates for so long was A, because I was physically addicted to them, and B, because they were the best solution.
Yeah.
I really ran with that. I'm gonna jump ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up getting fully addicted to heroin pretty quickly, right?
Doesn't take much.
Yeah, the second I put a needle in my arm, my life really changed.
It's a game changer.
And I crossed a line at some point, and I don't know if it was before I put the needle in my arm or after. I don't think it really matters. At some point, I crossed this line, and I lost the power to like choose. Right, like once I would put one in me, it was over. And I ended up going to rehab. And my first experience with rehab was South Florida, and I know we were chatting a little bit about it.
Oh yeah, I certainly got my experience with that fucking place.
Yeah. South Florida was a trip, man. Very corrupt, right? It was extremely corrupt. I went to a lot of places where you could do drugs, for example.
You're talking about this as far as the treatment game goes?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of brokering, a lot of
brokering. I've was given money to go to treatment centers,
which is so fucked up because some of these kids, it'll kill them
for sure. Especially the drugs out nowadays.
Yeah.
I think it's slowed down a little bit than it was in like 2013, 14, 15.
Brokering. Yeah.
I mean, they've cracked down a little more on it, I would say. And anyways, I went to this, my first experience, I go to this detox. I meet this girl, this beautiful girl, blonde hair, blue eyes. She's from North Carolina. And
rehab romance.
Yeah.
Match
and I'm
made in
like, I'll
hell.
follow you to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
I'll follow you to Mordor if I have to.
We're going to Narnia, bitch.
Yeah, I was willing to and I was like this sad little, puppy dog that would just follow her and put up with anything. And we end up at this.
Cheated on me, but she loves me.
She didn't cheat, but she was like super just. She was an animal.
She was a mess.
Sick.
Yeah, gotcha.
And we end up going to the sober living, and it's a couple sober living. We'll start there. It's the first mistake we made.
Yep.
And you could do drugs there.
Where was it?
It was in Lake Worth.
I lived in Lake Worth for like a year and a half.
Lake Worth was
Lake
quite
Worth.
the interesting place.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
Lake Worth, Boynton Beach,
Yeah.
Palm Beach,
Delray, Deerfield,
Yeah.
Boca.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Couples sober living.
we get to the sober living and we meet this couple, and everyone's getting loaded there. The girl ends up getting killed from the other couple, right?
The girl you were with?
No, not the girl I'm with. The other couple that we're like hanging out with.
Yeah.
The girl ends up getting killed in a homicide.
Holy shit.
The guy like gets away or whatever, and that was like my introduction to this whole thing. And I say it to really just ring home like this core belief that like the world was corrupt and I couldn't trust anyone kind of got mixed into my opinions about AA and the program that everyone was working, and I kind of shut myself off to treatment and the program.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I bounced around for a long time in and out of treatment centers. I've been to...
I had a fucked up experience with it too that kind of fucking... I don't think people realize that if you're part of the program, you represent the program, right? So I had a dude that wanted to fucking charge me to do step work.
Yeah, that's insane.
You know? So
literally
yeah,
insane.
I think that...
I think you might need a therapist if you want that. And they're going to charge you.
Right. Well, step work's free. That's the
Exactly.
glory of the program.
For sure. I wouldn't have anything if I wasn't doing step work. And it's supposed to be altruistic, you know?
Right.
So I bounced around all these treatment centers, man, and I ended up out here, and you know, I'll tell you what happened, right? So I end up at my umpty treatment center. I'm talking, I've been 55 treatment centers, something like that. Countless sober livings, all this stuff, and I get sober. I put like 6 months together. I don't work a single step. I get this job. I get out of IOP, and I'm working at this restaurant, and I think it's a good idea. I'm gonna have this spiritual experience with my buddy Chaz at the sober living. We're gonna go take some acid.
Oh yeah.
Down on Venice Beach.
Okay.
He's
Does he
laughing
know this
because
story?
I lived with them at the time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's where I met a lot of my good friends today.
Spiritual experience.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to have this
You're
spiritual
just tripping on the
experience.
beach.
I'm just tripping on the beach. But in my mind, I'm like, I was longing, like I'm just craving this experience, this spiritual experience that is going to change my perception.
Today.
Yeah, well, I really wanted it, you know what I mean? And I wasn't willing to do any work. I just wanted to put something under my tongue that was going to, or on my tongue that was going to make me experience all of it.
The cure, you're going to take.
You know, so we go down to Venice Beach.
The enlightenment cure.
Yeah, I find this crusty punk chick in Venice. You know, she's got a van. It's all beat up.
Down by the river.
In a van down by the river. Exactly. And she's got, you know, these dreads, and she's the Doc Martens, the whole nine, and she tells me she's got this shit, and I get it, and me and Chaz go and we trip, and, you know, then everything works fine. You know, I had this crazy experience. I saw the stars, everything was beautiful.
That's what you wanted, yeah.
There's so many colors, and of course, the next day, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to grab some weed, too. And I grab some weed, and I'm smoking weed at the sober living. Then Christmas rolls around.
It's harmless. Fuck it.
Yeah. Christmas rolls around, and I start thinking, you know what? Fuck this. You know? And the next thing you know, I'm smoking meth.
I know all too well.
Smoking tar. And I'm at this sober living. The guy who is like running the sober living is a friend from Florida that I had known. I was in that first treatment center I went to. I was in it with him, and he's running the sober living. And you know, he lets me in, does me a favor. I saw him. He's like this god shot. I see him at this mountain in Malibu. I'm like, Derek? He's like, what's up, Ian? How are you? You know, and he gives me a shot, and he lets me come, and I fucked him over, man. You know, I got loaded in sober living.
That's
I brought
what we
drugs
do.
in there. Yeah, and I just like, I didn't even think about it, right? None of that stuff comes to your mind.
No.
But my story's
We
about
don't
to
care
change.
who we hurt.
dude.
We don't care who we
Yeah,
fucking
this was like
trample on.
this was like years of doing this, right? And then there's my poor mother who I've just been like putting in the ringer, just back and forth.
Right.
And
My mother. Oof.
you know, the poor woman, I can only imagine the amount of time she spent worrying about me. And, you know, my story's about to really change, dude.
What
It's
happened?
about to get real bad. So, I leave the sober living. I lose my job. I get kicked out of the sober living. And I end up down in San Diego, right? And my experience with homelessness really starts. I have no options left. I'm living on the side of the road in a tent. And, doing a lot of drugs, shooting them, going to Mexico, doing all this stuff, and playing my guitar on the side of the road for money. And, you know, before that I had been homeless in LA for like a week, 2 weeks at a time, and then I'd go back to treatment.
Right.
But my insurance had finally run out, and so had my parents' will to help.
Your options ran
My
out.
options were done. I was homeless. And I'm doing that for, 4, 5, 6 months. And I end up going to this hospital. I have MRSA. I had this big abscess in my arm. I was living in this car on the side of the road that didn't run. And I finally said, you know what, I should probably go to the hospital. This is pretty bad, this infection. So I go to the hospital. They're like, yeah, dude, like, this is really bad. This could turn septic. And I'm like, I know, that's why I'm here. They're like, well, why didn't you come,
Sooner.
Anyways.
Been there, by the way. Same thing.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. I didn't give a shit.
They wanted to cut my
It
foot
wasn't
off.
until exactly
in Florida.
And they're like, we don't know what we're about to have to do. No fluids, no food. Remind you, I'm homeless. I haven't had a drink of water in probably a day. Never mind the last time I ate. So I get there, I'm like, in crisis mode, and I call my mom once again with this crazy story, and I'm just putting this lady through hell, man.
Yeah.
And
So what ended up happening with that infection?
I was fine. Totally fine. I had MRSA. I OD'd in the hospital, actually, and manipulated the nurse. I'm like, listen, I have MRSA, all right? And I'm an active heroin addict. I can't go into withdrawals with MRSA in your hospital right now, and I will leave. And she was like, all right, fine, we'll just give you a morphine drip, dude.
What?
And she did. She gave me a morphine drip. I mean, I had a pretty gnarly infection. I was there for like a week at least. And so I get out of the hospital and I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, like, listen, I'm gonna go back to detox. And she's like, dude, I don't know how to help you, man. Like, this has been years. I really don't know how
She
to help
doesn't get
you.
it, dude.
And I'll never forget this, like,
No
tear.
normal
dude.
person does.
Exactly. And this tear that was like streaming down my face as I lied to my mother for what would unfortunately be the last time. She passed away in a car accident a week later.
Fuck.
April 21st, 2019, my mom dies. I go home to Boston, cause a bunch more wreckage, man. I like OD in my family's basement. Or I didn't OD, actually. That's a lie. Trevor, my best friend, OD'd in my family's basement. And the
When you
cops
went
came.
home for the
When I went
funeral.
home, we go to the wake.
Wow.
That same night after the wake, Trevor ODs in my basement. I end up getting arrested because I have a warrant. Miss the funeral, and I end up in this jail cell, right? In the hole.
Alone with your own thoughts.
Alone with my own thoughts. And I had this crazy transformative experience where
So I know exactly. Yeah,
I'm
something
like,
like that
this
happened
is
to me.
like gonna make or break me as a man. You know what I mean? And I'm coming to this conclusion like, this is it. You know what I mean? You're gonna become a man right here in this jail cell, or you're gonna die trying. You know, you have no other options but to look at yourself right here. And I came to this beautiful conclusion out of this terrible situation, and it's crazy how adversity can really make or break people, you know, and teach them such beautiful lessons. I realized that, like, I couldn't be helped, you know?
Yeah.
I realized that, like, as hard as my mother had tried, as hard as the
it's all
schools
on
had
you.
tried, I couldn't even help, right? I realized that I needed to have, like, this experience with something that was bigger than me, you know? And I got out and I kind of shuffled around, caused a little bit more wreckage. I'm still homeless. My dad gets a restraining order on me. He's really upset. I don't blame him for it. We talk now. And
Yeah, same shit, dude. Same shit. Like, my mother fucking, I robbed her house.
yeah,
Straight up. Like, broken, fucking tough love thing. She fucking pushes it as far as possible and, you know, thinking that she's helping.
Yeah.
We didn't speak for like 7 years. Now I talk to her every fucking day.
Yeah.
I spent most of my vacation back east, you know, the past 2 weeks with her.
yeah,
So, you know, yeah, I think it's important for people to hear that kind of thing because you can fix those busted ass relationships.
absolutely.
You
And
know? But it takes time.
it takes time and it takes pain, dude.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't hurt bad enough, I would have never tried to fix them in the first place. And it takes
Exactly.
work.
Yeah.
You know, and I realized, you know, a lot of these things. So I ended up flying back out here to California, of course. And
What happened next? Got out here and
so I'm back in California. I end up going to a meeting, late night meeting, and I see this guy, Joe, who used to sponsor me. I know him from that same Sober Living. And I'm like, Joe. Actually, the first thing I did was I went back to the Sober Living.
Yeah, you did.
And, you know, I go there. And
wait a minute, what? Hold up. Vinny said, "Oh yeah, you did." So what?
well, so when I showed up, Vinny's one of my best friends.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And when I showed up,
I was working at the time.
Vinny was working at that Sober Living as a house manager. Or he was the program director. Sorry to
There you go.
throw dirt on your title.
Right.
So Vinny's the program
boy
director.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's the big man.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he wasn't the biggest man. That was Derek. And Derek said, "Fuck you, Ian," and got in his car and drove off. And I don't blame him one bit. I love Derek with all my heart. You know, it was what I needed. And I'm like, Vinny, I don't know what to do, man. Can you print me out this picture to color? And I asked him to print
He
me out.
fucking told me about this.
Yeah, I had him print me out this Misfits logo so I could color it
So
with
you're gonna
Sharpies.
sit on the side of the road
Yeah.
and color?
Well, I used to like to do
I mean, I
that.
color for a living.
Yeah, when I was bored, I would just color, you know? And
I turned it into a career.
Can I just say that was one of the most sad, depressing moments of my life, and there was nothing wrong with me, but it was so
Yeah,
depressing
I
and
just
so
wanna
sad
color.
because this kid was like such a good friend of mine that was in the house when I first got there.
I hadn't seen him since my mom had passed.
Yeah,
So,
and like tears, dude, I could see the pain in his eyes.
yeah, we were crying.
Could you just print something out for me? I'm just like, yes. It was so fucked up.
Yeah, I'll do you that solid.
Yeah.
But it was what I needed, right? Like,
Dude, imagine if Derek let you in.
I would have been fucked.
Yeah.
This experience, like, all this pain was, like, so necessary, right? And I'm so grateful for it because I ended up at this really structured Sober Living, and that's what I really needed, right? I needed to write words. I needed to have my ego smashed. I was entitled, selfish, self-righteous. You know, I had all these experiences that, again, I was a victim to them, and they allowed me to operate about the world in a certain way. And at the end of the day, these things were affecting the quality of my relationships for a long time. Right? That's the issue.
Yeah.
Is it's hard to have a good relationship when you can't be on the same page, in the sense that I have all these reasons to act all these ways.
That and you're, you know, emotionally still a fucking kid.
Yeah,
Because the drugs keep you from maturing in any fucking
For sure.
real fashion.
for sure.
So,
But it's not a fucking excuse, dude. It's not an excuse to act any certain way, right? And
no. I'm
self-righteous anger
I would
was...
never, you know, it's definitely not an excuse. I think I was just saying that's
Yeah,
the reason. One of the
absolutely.
reasons we're fucking.
Well, emotionally,
So
I was
retarded.
like a 12-year-old. You know, I was the
Exactly.
same 12-year-old that threw a hammer through Dick's window.
Yeah.
You know?
What did God, Michael made it. It said, I was a little boy making adult decisions.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So I end up at this house that I ended up working for. It's called The Last House. They saved my life.
Not familiar with it. Sounds cool.
They're a house in West LA.
Strict is good.
Very strict. You write words, you wake up, you make your bed. There's groups. In group, you're called out on your character defects. You're taught to like listen to what people have to say. You know, if it doesn't fit, you let it fly. You're taught to be fully self-sufficient. They scholarship me until I could get a job. I got a job. I was working at Ruth's Chris.
Right on.
Doing the dishes. Then I moved up to being a cook. Quarantine started to happen around this time. So there's...
Okay, so this is about 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, I have... By the way, my sobriety date is November 21st, 2019.
Do you still have the coloring, the drawing?
I might. I'd have to look through my stuff. I don't think I do. I wish I did.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'd fucking hang it up in here.
Yeah.
I'd hang it up at the shop.
1,000%. And, I started to have this fucking experience, dude. And I started to work the steps. I got that same sponsor that I had seen at that late night meeting. He let me sleep on his couch for a couple days. My buddy Sam drives me to Detox, who was also a manager at that house that they wouldn't let me in because Derek was upset. And for good reason, again.
Yeah.
But all these people like helped me out with they didn't need to. And they took a shot, right? Joe lets me sleep on his couch. Sam drives me to Detox. The sober living lets me in, and I started to have this fucking experience, dude. And I started to work these steps. And they really saved my life.
So you were working the steps pretty much immediately that time around?
Yeah,
or?
So this house is like, you're working the steps.
Okay,
so you
yeah.
have to work
yeah,
the
that's the way
steps.
Stairways is.
You know?
That's the way Stairway is. And it's...
And you don't have a phone, like none of that stuff. I didn't have a phone. I got a flip phone at like 4 months. I got a real phone at like 11 months sober. So like I wasn't on the internet, none of that stuff. There was no like fucking around.
Yeah.
I was in like boot camp for sober living. But it saved
Good.
my life, man. And I had this crazy experience where I started to see all these things that were fucked up in my perception and the way I was perceiving the world. I started to see where I was selfish. I started to see where I was entitled. I started to see where I had hurt other people unjustly. And I learned how to look at myself. I learned how to like accept my fears and character defects as they were. I learned how I asked them for them to be removed. And I went out and I did some work and I made some amends.
That's where a lot of that healing comes in. If I could get too personal, what about the situation with your mom?
Okay, so...
How were you able to like work through that?
So the situation with my mom, the amends to my mom, is I was a liar when I came to my mom. I lied to her. I was never honest with her. I could never give her my full intention. Could never just be like, you know what, dude, I want to continue to do drugs and alcohol. I'm gonna continue to do drugs and alcohol, and that's just like the way I want to live my life right now. Or like, yes, mom, I did do this. It was always like this lie.
Shit. Yeah.
It was always this fucking
No,
lie.
it wasn't me.
And, this looks sick, by the way.
I'm having fun with this motherfucker.
So it was always this lie, man. And I came to the conclusion that, like, if I ever wanted to be healed, I can't lie to the people I love anymore, right? And I'll tell you, the other day, I lied to my girlfriend. I'm not going to tell you what about. It's a little personal. But I lied to her. And I felt like shit, man. I felt like shit. I knew I had broken that amends to my mom, and I had to make it right with her.
Oh, I see. So the amends to your mom is just by being honest these days.
It's honesty, authenticity,
Nice.
and for me, like my mom's will for me was so loving and caring that I like to picture God's will in a similar way that I like to picture my mom's will. I think they align very well together.
Yeah. God's like a loving parent.
Exactly.
To some people.
And my mom she was a very loving parent. She could be stern and, harsh at times.
She could be a parent.
Yeah, she was like a very loving person and she cared so much about me. And
Yeah.
yeah, man, I
Fuck,
had
dude.
I had this crazy experience, right? And I started to help other people, and my life started to blow up. You know,
That's dope.
I ended up managing the sober living. That kind of sucked.
Yeah, my hat's off to some of those guys because there's no fucking way I could do it.
You ever been a live-in house manager?
No, so my thing, straight up, like I made a career out of fucking trap houses.
Okay.
So I was 17 when I got my first place, and I realized you can make fucking money just having the spot where everything goes down. That was my routine until I was 40 when I got clean. They didn't even call them trap houses back then. It was just a fucking house where, you know, a bunch of lunatic drug addicts were. But anyway, when I came out here, the idea of house managing, I was like, nah, I'd probably run it like a trap house. And it probably shouldn't be your candidate for this one, you know? But, yeah.
So I'm managing this sober living, and you know, life started to get dull again, and I just keep moving forward, man. It's like taking the next right indicated action becomes effortless at a certain point.
Dull.
You know? It felt so dull.
Dull is... I've reached a point where, like, dull is awesome. I mean,
I'm 20. I'm 28. So,
oh, okay. Yeah.
I wanted to have fun, man. I wanted to like get out and experience the world.
Right.
And like I didn't get sober to like just live a cookie cutter lifestyle. I'm
No,
kinda like,
not at all.
I'm very eccentric. I like to have a lot of fun. I like to go out. And I started to, you know, hang out with Vinny again. And we started to do, you know, some fun stuff. And my life started to get big again. I ended up moving into that same house with Joe that I lived on the couch for a couple days. So it came like full circle. I move out of the sober living. I start working in treatment. That wasn't the thing for me. I didn't really want to be a therapist. And I just ended up moving out from that. It just wasn't working out for me. But you
left on good terms, right?
I left on good terms. I worked for that same sober living.
That's what it's all about, then, dude. You have choices nowadays.
Exactly.
You know,
and I got another job, you know, that paid more money, and I'm able to like live a nicer lifestyle, right? And I started to work with Vinny, you know, and do the podcast. Shout out to What the Fudge. You guys should watch it if you're watching this. Come check out What the Fudge podcast.
Funny stuff.
It is some funny stuff. Some good guests coming up too, and we have fun, man. I've like had all these crazy experiences that I never thought I'd have. I have had enough money in my bank account to like go buy enough heroin and cocaine to like get high for a long time, and that thought just doesn't cross my mind anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and we just ate before this, right? And I was looking at Vinny, I'm like, dude, like, I never thought I'd have like a debit card that could like just cover the meal and everyone could Venmo me, you know?
Right.
And that was where
you covered it.
I covered it, you know, and you guys obviously paid for the meal. I didn't pay for it, but my debit card had enough money to
handle the transaction.
Handle the transaction. It was always like, oh no, I only got like 30 in here, man. Can you like, you know, you guys got to send me 50, and then you know, I don't know what we're gonna do about the tip and blah 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 blah. And my life like transformed, dude.
Yeah, I get it, man. Like the thing is with me in this where I'm at with everything. Like you don't know me too well, but I'm pretty sure you know the story. Like I came out here with nothing but the clothes on my back, and now we have this situation where I'm helping other artists with addiction issues get their shit together. But this is the second time I've done this.
Yeah,
I built. You know, I when I got out of prison years ago, I slept on a park bench, and I reached that point where I was like, "Holy shit, man! I got a fucking debit card of my own, bank account." And I didn't change anything on the inside, and I burnt everything down.
Yeah,
like
that's how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, obviously hindsight's always 20/20. I needed that to get me where I am now, because you know, it's just. you know how that shit goes. It's just like, you gotta go through what you gotta go through to get where the hell you're going.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at today, man. Is like, I feel like no matter what you've been through or what you go through, like, these experiences are for you to help other people. You know what I mean? And like, I never changed from like somebody from this frothy bullshit, right? Like somebody reaching out their hand and giving me a couple bucks or giving me a place to stay for the weekend, or like my mom like flying me out to this new city so I could get sober at some new treatment center. It was always like the pain, right? And like there's this little window when you go through this pain that you know, you have this window to like do some work, right? And if you can get in there and start doing some work during this time when you have this like energy about you, right, this willingness about you, then like you're off to a really good start. And I built a really good foundation my first year of sobriety, you know.
Yeah, that's a pretty important aspect, man, that foundation. I'm definitely in a very interesting place myself. I think you kind of get what I'm saying. It's just like, fuck, dude. Never thought I would have the amount of clarity. I think is more important than like the stuff, cars, and all that crazy shit. I think all that stuff just comes along with like working a fucking job, paying, you know what I mean, getting a paycheck and putting it where it's supposed to go.
That's easy money.
Yeah,
easy
that
money.
Stuff's,
you know, just show
that
up.
Stuff's
do your
simple,
job.
right? But it's the like you said, the perception switch. That's priceless to me. You know, like actually wanting to help other people.
Yeah, that's a concept that I could never really grasp.
Right. I wanted to hurt you. I wanted to steal from you. I wanted to fucking, you know, tear you down to my level.
And it's weird, this whole thing, it feels like that same weird acid trip that I always wanted, you know? Where like I would have this shift in perception. It's what I wanted, you know?
Yeah.
I wanted to find like the silver lining in things, right? Because I didn't think that the world had it. I just thought it just didn't exist.
Yeah.
You know?
It just sucks, and unless you were born fucking privileged in some way,
fucked.
you were just doomed to suffer.
And I felt so oppressed, and like the world was just like out to get me, man. And I found like through this experience a way to spread, like, instead of this negativity that I was spreading throughout the world, I'm able to spread positivity throughout the world through my same shitty experience that never changed.
Yeah.
Right?
When you meet the guy who thinks he's fucking unique and he thinks he's different, you're like, nah, I went through the same thing, dude.
Yeah.
I can fucking relate completely.
And at the end of the day, I say this all the time, it's like the world never changed. If anything, it's just getting more fucked up.
Yep.
But what changed is my perception,
the way
I move about the world, and like how do I handle situations, right? Like how do you react? What do you do? You know, what actions do you take when this happens? What actions do you take when that happens? Right? Who do you call? Are you able to take direction? You know?
Yeah.
And the quality of my relationships has improved drastically. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, my mother, when I was back home for the past couple of weeks, she was just like, you have changed, like, immensely. Like, she's got me with her friends, and like just the conversations we were having, you know?
Yeah.
In the past, when I would speak, her friends would be like, oh my God, what the fuck?
Whoa.
What the hell is wrong with this kid? You know what I mean? But this time around, it was like, I was an adult for once, you know?
And it feels good. That feels really good, you know?
Yep. Well, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah, it's been a crazy. I'm only at 2.5, a little over 2.5. 3 in November.
It's a numbers game, dude. Where you're at now, you know, like we don't want to project, but stands to reason. Double it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's the truth. You know, like sometimes I lose sight of that because I'm like, fuck, now I need this. You know, oh, wait a minute, I started with nothing. You know what I mean? So I'll definitely get there.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man.
And then looking ahead to the future, it's like all these
It's
opportunities
no longer bleak.
are here. Yeah, dude, like there's some cool stuff that is gonna be happening in my life soon. You know,
Oh yeah.
this like relationship that I've cultivated with Vinny and Zach has been like amazing. Like doing the podcast is really cool. I'm like getting ready to switch hopefully soon to like entertainment full time. You know, I'm like chasing my fucking dreams. You know. And I'm able to do that in a way that's like conducive to the people around me. I'm not like hurting anyone in the process.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I do know. I know exactly what you mean. If anything, it's the opposite. You're
Exactly.
helping people along the way.
Yeah, we can chase our dreams and bring abundance to the people around us.
Imagine that.
Imagine that, you know? When I was just take, hurt, you know?
Yep. I sure as hell do.
Still cleaning some shit up, you know?
Yeah. I go to court. I know back to Baltimore at the end of July.
End of July, I got court the 13th.
And it's the very last bit of the past record.
Is it?
Like all the crazy shit I was telling you about that happened in Florida's over with. Fucking
Yeah.
houses, some of the traps got raided. And all this shit's done and it's behind me. And when I go to court, I'm bringing my kids back with me.
That's insane.
My two youngest.
That's
They wouldn't
insane.
even fucking talk to me 5 years
For
ago.
sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now they've made a choice. Like,
They
we
wanna
want to come live
in
with you.
California. Yeah.
You know? So, like, if that doesn't fucking, you know,
I mean, that speaks volumes.
tell people how this shit works, I don't even know what does. You know? Like I said, they didn't even want to talk to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in one move, I go back there to handle the very last bit of past wreckage, and I bring the kids with me when I fucking come back here.
Which I'm sure you probably never imagined, you know,
Well,
when
you
you
know
first
what?
got here.
I can't say that it was a goal.
It was a goal.
Yeah. I guess I thought it would be achievable, but at the same time, like, I got a track record. And
Yeah.
You know, these kids aren't fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, you know, yeah, set goals and can actually accomplish them. Well, that's pretty
Who'd
rare.
have thought?
Yeah, not this guy.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we are about out of time.
This was fun.
Take a break from the tattoo. Yeah, it was definitely cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good at fucking talking on the camera in your face. Some people dummy up and get all nervous, and
Yeah.
you gotta seem like I got a knack for it. Like when I started this shit, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Well, nothing like a nice big ego to boost you up when you walk
You
in
know,
front of the camera.
well, you know why I started? One of the reasons I started doing this is because it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. I'm the opposite. I gotta
Yeah.
really bash my ego.
Look
you
at
know?
me.
Yeah. Hey, everyone, look at me. You know? Shut the fuck up. No one cares.
Right on. Well, shit, man. We're at a pretty good stopping point for this anyway, if you want to take a break.
All right.
Shit. That concludes yet another episode. Thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, share, help spread the word so these voices can be heard. I'm out.